The ceremonial blade pressed against Marcus Cole's throat, cold enough to make him flinch. Around him, the Velorian Senate chamber erupted in outraged whispers, their bioluminescent skin pulsing with angry violet hues. You dare bring a human into these halls? Senator Thalvos's voice echoed through the crystalline dome. And propose him as consort to our High Matriarch? Marcus kept his eyes forward, fixed on the woman standing at the center of the raised platform. High Matriarch Seylara Valketh watched the scene with an expression as unreadable as polished obsidian. Her silver hair cascaded past shoulders draped in ceremonial white, and her eyes, those unsettling, pupilless pools of deep amber, betrayed nothing. Remove your blade, Senator, she said, her voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. The human is under my protection. Thalvos hesitated, his four-fingered hand trembling with barely contained rage. My matriarch, the succession laws are clear. If you do not take a bonded mate by the third moon cycle, the seat passes to House Valdrith. Surely you cannot mean to, I mean exactly what I have declared. Seylara descended the steps with fluid grace, each footfall deliberate. Marcus Cole of Earth will be my bonded consort. The ceremony will proceed at dawn. The chamber exploded. Marcus felt the blade withdraw as Thalvos staggered back, his skin shifting to a sickly yellow. Fear or disgust, Marcus couldn't tell. He'd spent 3 years on Veloria, enough to learn their trade routes and political structure, but their emotional color language still eluded him. What he did understand was the cold calculation in Seylara's eyes when she'd approached him in the merchant quarter 2 days ago. She'd been disguised, her luminescence suppressed, her royal bearing hidden beneath common clothes. But he'd recognized her instantly. Everyone knew the face of the matriarch who had never smiled. I require a service, she had said, her voice stripped of its public grandeur. A deception. Our marriage will be fake. Nothing more than a political maneuver to fool the Senate until I can secure enough votes to change the succession laws. In return, I will grant you full citizenship and trading rights throughout Velorian space. Marcus had laughed, bitter and hollow. You want a human husband? Your people think we're barely above livestock. Which is precisely why you are useful. No one will believe a human capable of political ambition. They will see you as my eccentricity. A statement of defiance, perhaps, but never a threat. She had paused, something flickering across her features too quickly to name. I am offering you legitimacy, Mr. Cole. A chance to be more than a tolerated pest in our markets. Can you honestly refuse? He couldn't. After losing everything on Earth, his wife to cancer, his daughter to the accident that followed, his will to remain on a planet that held only graves, he had nothing left to refuse with. Now, standing in the Senate chamber, while alien aristocrats debated his worth like he was a defective purchase, Marcus felt the familiar numbness that had become his constant companion. Let them argue. Let them rage. He had stopped caring about his own dignity years ago. The human has not even passed the trials of worth, another senator protested. He cannot be recognized as, the trials are for those who seek to join our houses through merit, Seylara interrupted. I am not elevating him. I am claiming him. The matriarch's right of selection predates your precious trials by 6,000 years. She turned to face the assembly, her skin rippling with authoritative gold. Does anyone here wish to challenge the ancient laws? Silence. Marcus watched her command the room with nothing but presence and history, and, for a moment, he understood why she needed no army, no weapons. She was a weapon. Senator Thalvos stepped forward one final time. My matriarch, I must formally register House Valketh's opposition to this union. The human is damaged. We have reviewed the Earth records. He carries death with him. The words hit Marcus like a physical blow. He kept his face neutral, but his hands, hidden at his sides, clenched into fists. His past is not your concern, Seylara said quietly. It will become everyone's concern when enough. The single word cracked through the chamber, like breaking ice. The Senate will witness the bonding ceremony at dawn. Any who wish to absent themselves may do so. But the union will proceed. She turned and walked toward the chamber's exit without looking back. Marcus understood the unspoken command and followed, acutely aware of every hostile gaze burning into his back. They walked in silence through corridors of living crystal, the walls humming with frequencies just below human hearing. Only when they reached her private chambers, a sprawling suite of curved walls and floating light spheres, did she speak. You handled that adequately, thanks. Marcus's voice was flat. Your senator mentioned my records. How much do your people know about me? Seylara moved to a window overlooking the capital city, its towers glowing with the collective bioluminescence of millions. I know you lost your family. I know you came to Veloria with nothing, and built a modest trading business through stubbornness alone. I know you have not smiled once in 3 years. Sounds like you know enough. She turned, and for the first time, he saw something other than cold calculation in her amber eyes. I know what it is to lose everything, Mr. Cole. To stand in a room full of people and feel utterly alone. She paused. Our marriage was fake to fool the Senate. Nothing more. But I chose you specifically because I recognized something in you. What's that? A man who has already survived the worst. Such men are difficult to break. Marcus stared at her, this alien queen who spoke of shared wounds with the clinical detachment of a surgeon. He didn't trust her, didn't trust anyone anymore. But he recognized the truth in her words. The ceremony at dawn, he said. What do I need to do? Stand beside me, speak the words I give you, do not flinch when they cut us. At his raised eyebrow, she almost smiled. Velorian bonding requires an exchange of blood. Our people believe it creates a metaphysical link between mates. Does it? No. She turned back to the window. It is merely tradition. Like everything else we will do tomorrow, it means nothing. Marcus nodded and moved toward the guest quarters she had indicated earlier. At the doorway he paused. For what it's worth, he said, I'm sorry you have to do this. Whatever drove you to such a desperate choice? I'm sorry. She didn't turn around. But in the reflection of the window, he saw her skin flicker, just for an instant, to a color he'd never seen on any Velorian. He didn't know what it meant. The bonding ceremony was beautiful in the way that avalanches were beautiful, overwhelming, indifferent, and vaguely dangerous. Marcus stood on a platform of pure light, suspended above a chasm that dropped into darkness below. Seylara faced him, dressed in bonding whites that seemed to absorb the glow around them rather than reflect it. Between them, an ancient keeper chanted in a language that predated their current tongue, his wizened hands tracing symbols in the air that left afterimages on Marcus's retinas. You're shaking, Seylara murmured, low enough that only he could hear. I'm standing over a bottomless pit, while an alien priest sings at me. Allow me some nerves. The ghost of amusement crossed her features before vanishing. The pit is symbolic. It represents the void we fill for each other through bonding. Romantic. We are not a romantic people, Mr. Cole. The keeper's chant reached a crescendo, and he produced a blade of crystallized light. Marcus had been briefed on this part. The cuts, the mingling of blood, the words of binding. What he hadn't been prepared for was the intimacy of it. Seylara took his hand in hers, her skin cool and smooth, and turned his palm upward. The keeper's blade descended, drawing a thin line across his flesh. Marcus hissed at the sting, watching red blood well up from the cut, so vivid against the pale luminescence surrounding them. Then, it was her turn. The blade crossed her palm, and her blood emerged a deep violet, almost black in the ceremony's light. Without hesitation, she pressed her wounded hand against his. The contact was electric. Marcus felt a jolt run through his arm, his chest, his entire body, not pain, but something else. Something that felt like being seen. He looked up, and found Seylara staring at him, her amber eyes wide with what might have been shock. Her skin rippled through colors faster than he could track. Violet, gold, silver, that strange unnamed shade from the night before. The words, the keeper prompted. Speak, the words of binding. Seylara recovered first, her voice steady despite the chaos playing across her skin. I claim you as my own. In darkness and light. In silence and storm. Until the final star fades. Marcus repeated the words, feeling their weight settle on him like a physical thing. When he finished, the keeper declared the bonding complete, and the assembled witnesses, far fewer than for the Senate hearing, offered their reluctant acknowledgments. It was done. The weeks that followed established a routine. Marcus moved into the Matriarch's residential wing, though they occupied separate chambers. They appeared together at official functions, sat side by side during Senate sessions, and performed the expected rituals of a bonded pair. But behind closed doors, they were strangers sharing space. Until they weren't. It started with small things. Seylara began taking her evening meals with him rather than alone. She asked about human customs, listened with genuine interest as he described Earth's oceans, its forests, its chaotic beauty. In turn, she explained Velorian history, the ancient wars, the philosophical schools, the slow decline that had led to the current political crisis. Your people are dying, Marcus said one evening, understanding finally dawning. Not from disease or war, from stagnation. Seylara's hand paused over her meal. We have lived too long, achieved too much. Nothing is new anymore. Nothing surprises us. She looked at him with an expression he was learning to read. Humans surprised us. When your ships first appeared, broadcasting music and mathematics and chaos, half the Senate wanted to destroy you immediately. The other half wanted to study you. Both agreed you were dangerous. And you, I thought you were beautiful. The word hung between them, unexpected. Seylara's skin flushed with embarrassment. A soft pink he'd never seen before. Your species. The way you burn so brightly despite knowing how brief your lives are. We live for centuries and accomplish nothing. You live for decades and remake yourselves constantly. Marcus considered this. We're all so petty, violent, and prone to self-destruction. Yes, that too is beautiful, in its way. She stood abruptly, moving to the window, her habitual retreat when conversations ventured too close to feeling. You must think me strange. I think you're lonely. The words escaped before he could stop them. I think you've been alone in a crowd your entire life, and you're so used to it that you've forgotten there's any other way to be. She didn't turn around, but her voice, when it came, was smaller than he'd ever heard it. Is it that obvious? Only to someone who knows what it looks like. Silence stretched between them. Then, so quietly he almost missed it. I am glad you're here, Marcus. I did not expect to be. He didn't know how to respond to that. So he simply said, "Good night, Seylara," and retreated to his chambers. That night, he dreamed of his daughter for the first time in months. But instead of the accident, instead of the hospital, and the machines and the terrible silence, he dreamed of her laughing. Running through a field of alien flowers, her small hand reaching back for his. He woke with tears on his face, and an ache in his chest that felt almost like hope. 3 months into their arrangement, Senator Thalvos made his move. The trials of worth, he announced during a full Senate session, his skin rippling with triumphant orange. I invoke them on behalf of the Velorian people. The Matriarch's consort has not proven himself. Until he does, the bonding remains incomplete. Murmurs swept through the chamber. Marcus felt Seylara tense beside him. The trials cannot be invoked after a bonding is sealed, she said coldly. They can if the bonding was performed under false pretenses. Thalvos produced a data crystal, holding it up for all to see. I have evidence that suggests this union is not what it appears. That it is, in fact, a political convenience rather than a true bond. Marcus's stomach dropped. He glanced at Seylara, saw the micro-expressions of fear she couldn't quite suppress. What evidence? She demanded. Testimony from servants. Records of separate sleeping arrangements. Analysis of your biorhythms showing no synchronization, something that occurs naturally in truly bonded pairs. Thalvos smiled, showing teeth that were just slightly too sharp. The human has 1 lunar cycle to complete the trials. If he fails or refuses, the bonding is annulled and the succession laws take effect. The Senate erupted. Seylara argued, threatened, invoked ancient precedents, but Thalvos had prepared well. By the session's end, the ruling stood. Marcus had 30 days to prove he was worthy of a queen. I'll leave. They were in her chambers, the door sealed against the chaos of the day. Seylara paced like a caged predator, her skin cycling through angry colors. You'll do no such thing, Seylara. Those trials were designed for Velorians. I've seen the records, tests of strength, endurance, psychic ability. I'm human. I'll fail. Then we find another way. There is no other way. Marcus caught her arm, stopping her pacing. The contact sent that same strange jolt through him, and from her sharp intake of breath, she felt it too. This was always temporary. You needed time, and I've given you 3 months. That's more than you had before. She stared at him, and for the first time since he'd known her, her composure cracked completely. I don't want you to go. That wasn't our arrangement. I don't care about our arrangement. The words burst out of her, raw and desperate. Her skin blazed with that unnamed color. Not violet, not gold, something entirely its own. I care about you. I didn't intend to, I didn't want to, but I do. These 3 months have been the first time in a century that I haven't felt like I'm suffocating. Marcus stood frozen, her confession ringing in his ears. Seylara, you don't have to say anything. She pulled away, wrapping her arms around herself. I know this isn't what you signed up for. I know you're still grieving, still broken, still alive. He stepped closer, reached out, let his fingers brush her cheek. Her skin was cool, smooth, and trembling. I'm still alive. I forgot that for a while, but you reminded me. She looked up at him, those amber eyes swimming with emotions her people claimed not to feel. What are you saying? I'm saying I'll do your trials. He cupped her face in his hands, felt her lean into the touch like it was oxygen. Not because of our arrangement. Not because of politics or citizenship or any of that. Because I'm not ready to lose someone else I care about. You care about me? I'm as surprised as you are. A ghost of a smile crossed his lips, the first real smile in 3 years. But yes, I care about you, Seylara. Whatever this is between us, I'm not willing to let it end. She made a sound that might have been a laugh or a sob. Then she rose on her toes and pressed her forehead against his, the most intimate gesture in Velorian culture, the sharing of thoughts. "The trials will nearly kill you," she whispered. "I've survived worse. You're impossibly stubborn. I'm human. It's what we do." The first trial was endurance. Marcus stood at the base of Mount Cetherus, the sacred peak that had broken countless hopefuls throughout Velorian history. The summit glowed faintly in the darkness above, a mere point of light that might as well have been a star for all the distance between. "The rules are simple," the trial master announced, his voice carrying to the assembled witnesses, hundreds of them, drawn by the spectacle of a human attempting what many Velorians could not. "Reach the summit before dawn. No assistance may be given. No technology may be used. If you fail to reach the top, or if you abandon the climb, the trial is failed." Marcus looked at the mountain. 15,000 meters of volcanic rock, ice sheets, and atmosphere, too thin for human lungs. He'd trained for 2 weeks, nowhere near enough time. "One more thing." The trial master's smile was not kind. "The mountain tests more than physical endurance. The higher you climb, the more it reveals. You will face yourself up there, human. Most who fail do not fall from the rock, they fall from what they see." Marcus nodded and began to climb. The first 5,000 meters were almost manageable. His body screamed against the exertion, his muscles burning with lactic acid, his lungs laboring in the thinning air. But this was physical pain, and physical pain he could handle. The vision started at 7,000 meters. He was climbing a ridge of black stone, when suddenly he was in his kitchen on Earth, morning sunlight streaming through the windows. His daughter sat at the table, her cereal going soggy, while she chattered about school, about friends, about 1,000 small things that had seemed so unimportant then. "Daddy, you're not listening." He was climbing, hands bleeding against the rock. He was kneeling by her hospital bed, watching monitors flash warnings. He was standing at her grave, rain soaking through his suit. Something whispered. The mountain, or his own broken mind, he couldn't tell anymore. "She's gone. They're both gone. What are you climbing for?" His hand slipped. His body swung over the abyss, and for one moment, one terrible moment, he considered letting go. Then he thought of Seylara. Her cool hands on his face. The unnamed color of her skin when she felt something she couldn't express. The way she laughed, rare and startled, as if she'd forgotten she could. He tightened his grip and kept climbing. At 12,000 meters, the cold became truly deadly. His breath crystallized the moment it left his lips, and his extremities had long since gone numb. He climbed by feel alone, by instinct, by pure stubborn refusal to stop. The visions shifted. Now it wasn't his past he saw, but futures. Possible paths splitting off like branches of lightning. In one, he fell. His body was never found. Seylara, stripped of her position, faded into obscurity, another casualty of a system designed to crush those who dared to change it. In another, he turned back. He survived, but something essential broke between them. She smiled at him across formal dinners, and her eyes were dead. In a third, so clear it felt like prophecy, he stood beside her in the Senate chamber. Old, gray, impossibly alive. She held his hand while their children, human and Velorian, mingled into something new, watched from the gallery. And in her eyes was a light that had nothing to do with bioluminescence. "Choose," the mountain demanded. "I already have," Marcus gasped, and pulled himself over the final ridge. The summit spread before him, a plateau of perfect crystal that caught the first light of dawn. He collapsed onto it, barely conscious, his body pushed beyond every reasonable limit. He had made it. The second trial was suffering. Marcus spent a week recovering from the climb. Seylara sat by his bed through most of it, holding his hand with a tenderness that would have scandalized her Senate observers. When he woke, finally, truly woke, she was there. "You're an idiot," she said. "I made it, by minutes. The healers say your heart stopped twice during the descent." Her grip on his hand tightened. "Don't ever do that again. 2 more trials to go. Then recover quickly, so I can be properly angry with you." He laughed, actually laughed, the sound strange and wonderful in his throat. "Yes, my matriarch." Her skin flushed that unnamed color again, and she looked away. "Don't call me that, not when we're alone. What should I call you?" "Seylara." "Just Seylara." The second trial took place in a chamber deep beneath the Senate building. Unlike the public spectacle of the mountain, this was witnessed by only a handful, the trial master, Senator Thalvos, and Seylara herself. "The trial of suffering tests one's capacity to endure pain for another," the trial master explained. "You will be connected to the neural matrix. Every wound inflicted upon your bonded mate will be felt by you, multiplied by 10. You must endure for 1 hour. If you cry out, if you beg for mercy, if you lose consciousness, the trial has failed." Marcus looked at Seylara, understanding dawning. They're going to hurt you? It is symbolic pain. Controlled. Not dangerous. But I'll feel it 10 times over. Yes. Her voice was barely a whisper. Marcus, you don't have to. 1 hour? Yes. Then let's begin. The first pain was fire. It lanced through his nerves like actual flame, spreading from his hand up through his arm, consuming his shoulder, his chest. He bit down on the inside of his cheek, tasting blood. In the center of the chamber, Seylara sat perfectly still, her eyes locked on his. A small device attached to her palm glowed faintly, the source of the symbolic pain. 10 times multiplied meant nothing symbolic about what he felt. The second pain was ice. The third was pressure, crushing. The fourth was electricity. The fifth was loss. That one wasn't physical at all. It was the feeling of everything precious being stripped away, of standing in an empty universe with nothing to hold on to. Marcus kept his eyes on Seylara. Her skin cycled through colors with each pulse of pain, the colors she felt as he suffered on her behalf. He saw fear, guilt, grief, and beneath all of it, that constant undercurrent of unnamed emotion that he was beginning to recognize. 20 minutes. 30. 40. His body trembled. His mind screamed. But he didn't cry out. Because she was watching him. Because she needed him to prove something that had nothing to do with the Senate or the succession laws. She needed him to prove that he would stay. Enough, Valvo said at 50 minutes, his voice sharp with disbelief. This is not. He should have broken by now. 12 more minutes, the trial master said calmly. The trial continues. The final stretch was the worst. The pains layered on top of each other, a symphony of suffering that should have been impossible to bear. Marcus bore it. When the hour ended, he collapsed forward onto his hands and knees, gasping. Blood dripped from his nose, his ears, the physical toll of sustained neural stress. Seylara was at his side in an instant, her hands on his face, his shoulders, his back. Marcus, can you hear me? Did I pass? He rasped. You passed. Her voice cracked. You impossible, stubborn, beautiful, human, you passed. He managed to lift his head, to meet her eyes. One more trial, one more. She pressed her forehead to his. But not today. Today, you rest. He wanted to argue, but his body had other ideas. The last thing he felt before losing consciousness was her arms around him, cool and strong, and holding on like she would never let go. The night before the final trial, Seylara came to his chambers. Marcus was sitting by the window, watching the city lights pulse with their living rhythms. She entered without announcement, which would have been scandalous protocol if anyone had been watching. You should be sleeping, she said. So should you. She sat beside him, close enough that their shoulders touched. The final trial is confrontation. You must face an opponent in single combat, I know. Valvos has chosen the champion himself. One of his house warriors. Fully trained, fully augmented. Superior to a human in every physical metric. I know. Marcus. She turned to face him fully. You can't win. He looked at her, this alien queen who had started as a political convenience and become something far more. Then I'll lose gracefully. This isn't a joke. I'm not joking. He took her hand, marveling at how natural the gesture had become. Seylara, I've already climbed your mountain and survived your torture chamber. If I have to lose a fight to complete this, then I'll lose a fight. What matters is that I don't give up. The rules say you must win. Defeat is failure. Then I'll find a way to win. How? He smiled, that new smile that still felt strange on his face. I'm human. We're good at finding ways. She stared at him for a long moment. Then, slowly, she leaned forward and pressed her lips to his. The kiss was soft, tentative, neither of them quite sure of the unfamiliar territory. But it was also real. No pretense, no political calculation. Just two wounded souls reaching for each other in the dark. When they parted, her skin glowed with that unnamed color, brighter than he'd ever seen it. What is that color? He asked quietly. I've been trying to identify it for months. She looked down at her own hands, luminescent with emotion. It has no name. It's what we feel when we find our true match. The old texts call it soul recognition. My people claimed it was a myth. But you feel it. I feel it. She met his eyes. I've felt it since the bonding ceremony, when our blood touched. I tried to ignore it, to dismiss it as coincidence. But, Marcus, I cannot pretend anymore. He pulled her close, holding her against his chest. Then don't pretend. The trial tomorrow is tomorrow. Right now I have you. That's enough. They sat together until dawn, not speaking, just breathing in the reality of what they'd become. The arena was ancient, carved into living rock thousands of years before humans had learned to make fire. Velorians filled the surrounding galleries, their collective bioluminescence creating a sea of shifting color. At the center of the sandy floor, Marcus stood alone. Across from him, the champion of House Valdreth waited. His name was Kethros, and he was everything Marcus was not: 2 meters of engineered muscle, born and bred for combat, his skin glowing with the confident gold of certain victory. Senator Thalvos presided over the proceedings, barely concealing his satisfaction. The final trial, confrontation. The combatants will fight until one submits, loses consciousness, or dies. Begin when ready. Marcus took a breath, centering himself. He had no training for this, no advantages. His human body was slower, weaker, more fragile than his opponents. By any logical measure, he had already lost. But logic had never stopped him before. Kethros moved first, a blur of speed that crossed the arena in the span of a heartbeat. His fist connected with Marcus's chest, and Marcus felt ribs crack. He flew backward, hitting the sand hard enough to drive the air from his lungs. The crowd roared. Thalvos smiled. Marcus pushed himself up, blood on his lips. Kethros was already there, lifting him by the throat. "Yield," the champion said, his voice bored. "This doesn't have to be painful. Define painful," Marcus gasped. Kethros threw him again. More ribs, probably. Maybe internal bleeding. Marcus couldn't tell anymore. His body had become a symphony of damage. He got up anyway. Again and again, Kethros knocked him down. Again and again, Marcus rose. The crowd's cheers turned to murmurs, then to something like unease. This wasn't entertainment anymore. This was something else entirely. "Stay down," Kethros said, and for the first time, there was uncertainty in his voice. "Why won't you stay down?" Marcus spat blood onto the sand. "Because she's watching." He looked to the Matriarch's box, where Seylara sat rigid with terror. Her skin blazed with color, fear, hope, love, all tangled together into that nameless shade that belonged only to them. "And because I promised her I'd find a way to win." Kethros's eyes narrowed. "You can't win. You're human. You're nothing. Maybe." Marcus swayed on his feet, barely conscious. "But I'm not fighting for me. I'm fighting for her. And humans, we're very good at fighting for the people we love." He launched himself forward, not at Kethros's body, but at his legs. It was a desperate move, graceless and undignified. But it worked. Kethros, expecting another futile attack to the face, was caught off balance. He toppled backward, and Marcus was on him in an instant. Not fighting. Holding. His arms wrapped around Kethros's throat, his legs around the champion's waist. Every ounce of remaining strength went into maintaining the hold. Kethros thrashed. Struck. Raged. But Marcus had found his grip, and he would not let go. 1 minute. 2, 3, 10. The champion's movements slowed. His strikes weakened. Velorians were stronger than humans, but they needed more oxygen too. And Marcus, battered and broken as he was, had learned to survive on less. "Yield," Marcus whispered. "I don't want to kill you." Kethros's hand slapped the sand 3 times, the universal signal of surrender. The arena fell silent. Every Velorian sat frozen, unable to comprehend what they had witnessed. A human, a small, fragile, insignificant human, had defeated one of their finest warriors. Marcus released his hold and collapsed onto his back, staring at the crystalline ceiling above. His body screamed with 1,000 injuries. But he was smiling. Seylara's face appeared above him, her tears falling onto his cheeks like cool rain. "You idiot. You beautiful, impossible idiot. Did I win? You won." She laughed and sobbed at the same time. "You won, Marcus." Behind her, he could see Thalvos's face, twisted with disbelief, with fury, with the dawning realization that he had lost. The succession laws could not be invoked. The marriage was proven real. But none of that mattered. What mattered was Seylara's hand in his, her forehead pressed against his own, her voice whispering words he'd never expected to hear. "I love you. I love you too." The words came easy, natural. "Even though you're an alien queen who tricked me into a fake marriage, our marriage was fake to fool the Senate." She pulled back enough to look into his eyes. "But it stopped being fake the moment I realized I couldn't imagine my life without you." "When was that?" "The mountain. When the trial master told me your heart had stopped, and I felt mine stop with it." She kissed him, soft and fierce all at once. "I knew then. I knew you were mine, and I was yours, and no political arrangement could ever contain what we had become." The Senate session that followed was the most watched in Velorian history. Marcus stood beside Seylara, His injuries healed enough to allow him to walk unaided. The chamber was packed with observers, not just senators, but citizens, merchants, even representatives from other species who had heard the impossible rumors. A human had completed the trials of worth. A human had become the legitimate consort of the Velorian High Matriarch. Everything was about to change. The vote before this body, Seylara announced, her voice carrying to every corner, is the amendment to the succession laws. No longer will our leadership be determined by forced marriage or a political deadline. No longer will our future be held hostage by ancient customs that serve only to entrench power. We will choose our leaders by merit, by vision, by the consent of our people. She paused, looking out at the assembly. 3 months ago, I proposed a false marriage to delay this very moment. I am not proud of the deception, but I am proud of what it revealed. Her hand found Marcus's, their fingers interlocking. It revealed that strength is not a matter of species, or birth, or physical prowess. It is a matter of heart. My husband, my true husband, in every way that matters, showed this body what it means to fight for something beyond oneself. He showed us what we had forgotten in our millennia of stagnation. She turned to Marcus, her eyes bright. Tell them. He stepped forward, this human merchant, who had become something none of them could have predicted. Your matriarch asked me to help her fool you, he said simply. I agreed because I had nothing left to lose. But somewhere along the way, I found something worth fighting for. Not citizenship. Not trade rights. Her. He looked at Seylara, then back at the assembly. You all think humans are small. Brief, naive. Insignificant. And maybe we are, by your measurements. But we love fiercely. We hope stubbornly. We refuse to give up, even when every logical calculation says we should. That's not weakness. That's the only kind of strength that matters. He squeezed Seylara's hand. The marriage that started as a deception became the most real thing in my life. I don't know what that means for your politics or your laws, but I know what it means for me. It means I finally have a reason to keep living. The chamber was silent for a long moment. Then, one by one, the senators began to glow. Gold for approval. Gold spreading through the assembly like dawn breaking over mountains. The amendment passed. That night, Marcus and Seylara stood on the balcony of her chambers, watching the city celebrate below. The news had spread quickly. A new era was beginning, and the matriarch's human consort had helped usher it in. What happens now? Marcus asked. Now we rule together. Build something new. Show my people that change doesn't have to mean destruction. She leaned into him, her head resting on his shoulder. And we live. For however long we have. That's the part I'm worried about. I'll Deceive. You'll live on. Yes. Her voice was soft, but I would rather have decades with you than centuries alone. Is that not worth something? It's worth everything. She turned in his arms, facing him fully. Her skin glowed with that color. Their color. The one that had no name because no one had ever felt it before. Thank you, she said. For staying, for fighting, for being impossible. Thank you for choosing me. He kissed her forehead. Even if it was supposed to be fake, especially because it was supposed to be fake. She smiled, and the expression transformed her entire face. The best things in life are the ones we never planned for. Around them the city pulsed with light and life and hope. Somewhere, new alliances were forming. New possibilities were opening. The galaxy was shifting, and at the center of it all stood a queen who had learned to love and a human who had learned to live again. Their marriage had been a deception. Their future would be the truth. The end.